Alright, so this video will focus on Chapter 4, Section 1. And the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to input these values for x. So for instance, if I plugged in, let's say this 0. 2 times 0 is 0, minus 3 equals negative 3. So this would be negative 3. And I want you to pause the video and try to fill out the entire table. And so here are the values for the first one, for the second one, third, and for the fourth. Now again, I'm just plugging these values in, so like 1 times 1/2 is 1/2, plus 2 is 2.5. 2 times 1/2 is 1, plus 2 is 3. That's how I'm getting these values. And the focus today is how can you recognize linear equations and how can you draw its graph. So what we're going to start with is this right here. I'm going to choose any values that you want for x, and then we'll give a solution point, which will be the value for y. So if I look here, let's just write down a couple solution points. So we have our formula, which is y equals 1/2 x plus 1. I like to start easy by just using 0. So I plug in a 0, 1/2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. And then let's just try another one, and let's just do 4. So 1/2 times 4 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So I'll put down 4 and 3. And it says to go through here and actually plot these 2 points down. So let's do that. So 0, 1 is right here. So we could graph this out. So there's 0, 1. And the other one is 4, 3. So I go to 4 and up to 3. And I'm going to go through and just make a straight line between these 2 points. I'd really recommend having at least 3 points. But it's a good start here. So all the points on this line are actually going to be possible solutions. So let's just try this one, like 2 and 2, right? If I plug in a 2, 1/2 of 2 is 1, plus 1 is 2. That's why 2, 2 does in fact work. Let's go up here to 2, 2. Another one is 6 and 4. If I plug in a 6, 1/2 of 6 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So every number on this line where the x and the y values correspond, or look, or when I go to the 5 and then I go up, like if I go up to the 5, up to here, and then I go straight over, that'll be my y value is. So these are all possible solutions. And it asks you to find a different point, which is what we just did a moment ago. And it says, do you think it is true that any solution point is a point on the line? And the answer is yes. It absolutely is. Why do you think y equals ax plus b is called a linear equation? Well, you have your y value, you have your coefficient, and your slope, I guess I'll say. That's what a represents. And then your b is your starting point, where you start the graph. It says find 3 ordered pairs that are solutions to this right here. So let's just go through and find 3. So again, I like to start kind of easy. I like to do 0. So I'll have x and y. And let's just do 0. So 2 times 0 is 0, minus 3 is minus 3. If I plug in, let's say, a 4, 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. And let's just do 10. 2 times 10 is 20. Minus 3 is 17. So these would be all different solutions that I'll have. And I just want to show you something real fast. I'm going to open up a new tab here. I'll call it Desmos. This is a great thing to use. And I'm going to say y equals 2x minus 3. And if we look here, the value that I just had a moment ago was, I said 10 to 17. So if I go through here and I go to 10, zoom out, where it crosses is right here. This is where x is 10 and y is 17. So these are all different values that work along this line. Another one that I had was I had 4, 5. So if I go to 4 and 5, so that works. And the last one I had was 0, negative 3. So right here, 0, negative 3. So these are all various points on the solution set. All right, so the key idea, the linear equation is an equation whose graph is a straight line. And the points on the line are solutions to the equation, which is what I just showed you a moment ago. Here's another example. So if I have my x and my y, if I plug in -1 into this equation, -1 plus 1 is 0. And that's why it is -1 and 0. So it says here to graph -2x plus 1. I'm going to plug these values in. I'm going to have my -1, and -2 times -1 is +2, plus 1 is 3. So that's why the value is -1, +3. You kind of see how these all work out. This is a really important concept to understand. We've kind of talked about this in the past. This should be an equal sign here, y equals b. So here's what this is basically saying. Let's pretend that it says y equals 4. All right. What that means is I always have an ordered pair, which is x and y. And this value is always going to be y equals 4. I don't care what x is, so let's just say we'll have here 4, 4, and 4. Now let's just plug in any value that we want for the x. So I'll say 0, 4, 1, 4, 2, 4. Now I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to graph this out, and I just want to show you how this works. And I have my 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my x term. These are my y terms, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so let's start graphing these things out. So the first one is 0, 4, which is located right here. The next one is 1, 4, right here. Next one is 2, 4, which is right here. You'll notice that this will keep on drawing a straight line right here. So whenever it has a value like y equals 4, even though your y goes up and down, it just means that your y value in your ordered pairs is always equal to this value. And so when I plug in an x value, it will just move it. So the y is actually a horizontal line, and that's what it shows right here. Whereas the x, if you look at the x, that's actually a vertical line. And let's just show why that is the case. So if I go through here and do this again, and I'll say x equals 2. Okay. So again, I don't care what y is. I just know all my x terms have to be equal to 2. And now I will go through and just plug in like 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2. So the constant, of course, is x equals 2. When I graph this out, I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll go up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's change the color. All right, so my first point is 2, 0. So 2, 0 is right here. My next one is 2, 1. So it's 2 and up 1. And the next one is 2 and 2. So again, this will be a vertical line on the 2. It crosses x equals 2. And that's how you do this. So it says graph this, y equals -3. So again, this is a horizontal line at -3. And this is a vertical line at +2. So you can see how that works out. And it says here, graph the linear equation, use a graphing calculator to check. So if I was to graph this out, if I plugged it in 0, let's just do a solution set here. So I have y equals 3x. And really it's plus 0. There's no starting point, or starting point is 0. And let's just plug in a solution set. So if I plug in x and y, if I plug in a 0, I get 0. If I plug in a 1, I get 3. If I plug in a 2, 2 times 3 is 6. And when I graph this out, it'll be a straight line. Same thing here, when I plug in a 0, 1, 2, 3. And here's what it will look like. Again, it starts at 0. This one, if you look at it, starts at +2, and then it goes down 1 and over 2, down 1 over 2. This one here will be a vertical line at -4. So I go to x is -4, that's right here on the x value, and it goes up and down here. And then y equals -1.5, so I go down to -1.5 on the y value, and it's a horizontal line that goes across. This one here says the wind speed is in miles per hour. So I have y equals 2x plus 66, where x is the number of hours after the storm enters the Gulf of Mexico. We already know what the hurricane is here, because it says that it's 74 degrees. So I'm going to go 74 equals 2x plus 66. Now we're just going to go through and solve this way that we solve all algebra problems. We're going to first go through here, box the coefficient, subtract 66. So this right here is equal to 8 equals 2x. I do that multiplicative inverse, which is really going to be, this is over 1, so it'd be times 1 over 2, times 1 over 2. So x equals 4. So 4 hours. So it becomes a hurricane in 4 hours. And now it's saying here it is. When will it become a storm? Or when will it become a hurricane? So we're going to do the same thing. Again, it was 74 degrees as a hurricane, right? So I'll have 74 equals 1.5x plus 62. So I do everything I did before, where I go through, I box a coefficient, I draw my line, I subtract 62 from this side, subtract it from this side, and now I get 12 equals 1.5 over 1x. I have to do that multiplicative inverse, which is going to be 1 over 1.5 to both sides. And in this case, x will be equal to, I go through and I just take, so 12 divided by 1.5, right? So 12 divided by 1.5, and I get 8, I think. If I go here, let's look. 8 hours. And that is really the lesson for 4.0.